menswear collection. Candida was also then invited to collaborate for the shirt collection. That is what I'm wearing. There are many comments. I have to stand up though, so you get a full of the back. Yeah. I'm very lucky to have a blazer, not the one that Pharrell's wearing in the photo now, but a different one and a couple shirts. But I thought we'd start. Candida, tell the story. Tell how you felt about it, how you feel about it now. Go.
Oh, okay, how did I feel about it?
Well, how did it start? No, tell the story how it started.
Well, I got an email, and it was this woman who represented Comme des Garçons, and she more or less said, you know, that that Ray Kabakuba wanted to collaborate with me on a shirt collection. So it started with the shirts conversation, and which refers back to what Terry's wearing now. So, and at first, I got this email and I didn't think it was real. So I forwarded to Terry. I said, Terry, do you think this is real?
So I can pick up from there. If you wanna, can I unmute myself? No, I'm on. So she sends it to me, and we're starting to work on this big exhibition that was opened then in April of 2017. That the book is from. We're gonna talk about this in a moment. So she's like, I think this is fake. You know, I'm like, send it to me. So I'm sitting my place. I'm still in Chicago at that time, and I'm like, I called her up and I said, I think this is real, Candida. I think this is real. So it was real. So then, you know, continue about Ray, you know, like what you learned about.
Well, I think I think the most amazing thing for me was, you know, that the work was really what connected us. I didn't know her. I didn't know anybody who knew her. So the fact that she had seen my work online was how she got excited about it. And so I was a little bit, I mean, I was excited, but at the same time, it meant a lot of things for me. It meant like, wow, I had to leave my studio. I had to leave the studio in a way. You know, it's like my work had to leave the studio. And it had to go, and it went into somebody else's hands somehow. And so, and that meant that the work was going to be changed. But what I felt at the end, you know, was this amazing feeling that that the clothes themselves were the paintings, right? And the paintings were actually moving in space and time, real time. And so there was this really beautiful idea that the paintings served as a ground against real life. And so they became very activated. You know, I mean, I'm talking about now the fact that Ray used for her textiles, some of the paintings and drawings that I had sent to her. So as you can see on Terry's shirt. So that to me was explosive. And I meant like, okay, I could leave the studio in a different kind of way. And I mean, the paintings.
I'm sorry, you went to Paris.
Oh, right. Thank you, Terry. You're always on point. And anyway, yes, I did go to Paris. I was invited to go to Paris. I took my son, Ramon, and I'd never been to, I hadn't been to Paris in about so many years. And of course, the opportunity to go look at museums and, you know, see all these paintings all over the place was just phenomenal. And then to enter this room and not really knowing what I was about to see, because it was a mystery. Ray Kabakuba is very mysterious. You know, you collaborate with her, but you still don't know exactly what it's going to look like. So, so I'm sitting there, my son is there, he's taking pictures, and some of them that you can see in the book that just came out. But and I was just holding on, you know, and I was like, oh, and so Ramon said, how will I know it? I said, I'll just go like this, when, you know, so at first you could see from the beginning, excuse me, there were because she collaborated with some other artists. There were 2 other artists in that show.
Can I just interject these things on Pharrell? These rubber toys are another artist. So some of the garments had those on them, others don't. So
Right. But all the other stuff on his body right now is from paintings, and there are several paintings. And one of the remarkable things was that she didn't alter the painting, the paintings themselves. She just reproduced them, and just kind of repeated them. But and so here we are in France, and it was a very private thing. I didn't get the tickets till the day before. And so and then the model started we're going down the ramp, and it was just, but but let me just say one thing. So Ray is, you didn't go into the front of this. What was the name of that hotel, Terry?
It's the Vendôme.
Yeah, the Vendôme, very famous. Anyway, you didn't go through the front. You had to go through the back, like where all the people who work, the service people come in. And then she kind of had these walls that really kind of pushed away all the interior walls of this beautiful hotel. But then you could see the chandeliers, right? And then the bodies would come in. So she transformed that space too. And the expectation that one had, in even entering that, what you thought you were about to see. And of course, she wasn't anywhere around. I didn't see her. Maybe she was in the back somewhere, but I did not see her. And so I don't know. It was very fast. It was like, it started a little bit late, and maybe it was 20 minutes total. And then, that music comes on, and there's a poem in it. And so it's really fantastic. I mean, it was, there wasn't a lot of time to really, you couldn't talk. Everybody was quiet. It was like watching a movie. And so.
There's someone who's not muted. Sorry. Make sure you're muted. I'm sorry, there's someone who's not muted. Anyway, Candida, maybe we should go on and continue.
Okay, so now we're back, and so we went. That was fabulous. We came back. And the next day we actually went to the to where all the clothes were. The buyers were there, right? So we got to try on some of the clothes, my son and I. Of course, hardly anything fit me, but it was such a fun thing to do. And then we left, and then we're back in Chicago. And then a few months later, I guess it was, when was it? And later on in 2017, 28, because the production comes afterwards, right? So then I got boxes of shirts and some of the garments, and now I have them in a little wardrobe in my studio. So yeah, that was a pretty cool thing to happen. And so when Pharrell finally, what just happened? Somebody has.
Charlie's doing something.
Oh.
So,
pushing, yeah. Yeah, there we go. So, where was I?
So I'll just continue and sort of wrap that up. So the fashion show happened in January.
Yes.
We're in full production mode. For now, we can move Charlie to the images starting from the Here exhibition. So the next one. And so this show opened at the Chicago Cultural Center in April of 2017. Many of you in this grid saw it in person. I know there is one person on this video, Tully Sater, who made a trip from Santiago, Chile, landed in the morning, saw the show, went back the next morning to Chile. So he's a former student of ours, amazing artist. He got the amazing prize. He came one day overnight to see the show from Chile. But the great story about this show that ties, Candida and I are connected in so many ways. I mean, as colleagues, as friends, as, her work is my one sort of pop star friendship that many of you know here is with the Pet Shop Boys. I've known them for a long time now and stay in touch with them. And so Candida now has come how many times? three or four concerts. Candida's been my guest. We go back and say hello after, so they know her now. And so in November, I looked it up. It was November 6th or November 5th of 2016. So before Cal Kubo, the email, right before, we're walking to the Lyric Opera in Chicago to go see the Super Tour, the new, and I've been agonizing about a title for the show. And I'm standing in line to buy like the tour program. And Candida says to me, I have a title for the show. And she says, here. And I about fell over because it's my favorite song, the Pet Shop Boys. So I just like couldn't believe it. She didn't know the song, anything. So we, after the concert, I tell Neil, and he's like, well, you know, we did a song. I'm like, Neil, I know you did a song called Here. That's the why I'm telling you. Oh, and that's her path. That's our pass from that tour, the Super Tour. So, and this becomes serendipitous because we're going to end before questions with, I've now curated this online show that's opening on Thursday, and Man of the Artist I see in the grid right now, and it's named after a Pet Shop Boys song too. So that sort of serendipity, but Here just became the perfect name. So this exhibition was it just became something I got fixated on, like knowing Candida, knowing her work, and just being more sort of floored with how much of it wasn't really known in her trajectory. And I approached her and I said, I want to do a big show across your painting, which ended up being about 40 years of your painting. So Candida, how did that feel when I first broached the subject?
I remember saying I was really worried about the word survey. 40 years. I had never had the opportunity to see 40 years of my work. And I have to say that was a bit overwhelming and quite wonderful at the same time. When I walked into this space, I mean, it's huge. You know, you look up, you look down. I mean, there's a lot of.
Carly, we can keep going through these images.
Yeah, it's just, I was a bit overwhelmed, you know, and then it just hit me that the space needed something to anchor, like to bring the weight back down to the floor, because, you know, I kept looking up and it was so beautiful and so detailed. And that it came to me that I should do something for the trim, you know. So, and that goes back to one of the garments and one of my paintings that I had used for the collaboration with Comme des Garçons. And so what I did was I remade another version of a piece that began with this initial piece, which is not in the show, which is called Best Friends Forever, BFF. And so for me, it felt like it could reset the whole show. I mean, all the paintings they weren't, you know, we didn't hang them chronologically, but some of them do follow a kind of chronology. But there was something about that new piece, which really I felt brought the whole show together and into the here moment, right? And so, but I must say, you know, the opportunity to be able to view one's work and to understand what 40 years of making looks like, right? I mean, that was pretty amazing, you know, to be able to hold this space as 40 years of production and of not production, you know, of just, I prefer the word making, right? Or creating, and not really knowing what that looks like. To have a son who's now 29 years old, but to be able for him to see works that he wasn't even born when I made them, right? So it was a profound moment. And I liked it more than I thought I would.
Well, I just want to tell, I mean, Candida and I were, again, because Fong's interview was so great, I thought we just thought tell some stories. So several things stand out for me. I think this, you know, those of you who know me know I've had the privilege of doing a few monographic museum exhibitions as a guest curator over my career. This is the best one I've done and the one I just feel the most proud of. because, you know, this work, you know, and that we were on the same wavelength to try to mix it up. It wasn't installed chronologically. There are sort of moments chronologicalness, I guess, in the exhibition. But I wanted, what I loved about the trim was it then became this way of turning the whole thing into almost one work that was right now, that was here. It's here now. A lot of work that hadn't been seen, you know, and that it didn't matter that something was from 1981. You know, it matters in one way, but not in another way, I should say. And the trim piece, which then Candida and I sort of ended up collaborating on the title, the trim piece is called Comme des Amigos Forever. So it's a mashup of Best Friends Forever, the original painting, and Comme des Garçons, and then it's in 3 languages, French, Spanish, and English, as a kind of polyglot, you know, like idea, I guess. The second thing I want to say, and this relates to both of us being educators, and I was the chair of painting and drawing while I did this show at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. So I had a pretty intense day job. You know, Candida was teaching. We did a talk together the day of the opening at the Cultural Center, and we started with the Ray Kawakubo video, and we had a great conversation, and then people were asking questions, and a student, not a student I think I even knew, maybe Candida knew the person, was sort of asking, wanting, because we didn't really talk much about issues of identity or issues of, you know, a lot of things, like all the things that like get really intense in art school in particular, in my opinion. And so I turned and said, well, what I want to say here is that, you know, I didn't really do the show for her. And it's not really about her. It's about the work. And you heard these like titters and like kind of soft gasp in the audience. So then like, Candida, can you tell them what your response was? Do you remember?
I don't know.
You said, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And so this idea that like, yeah, the work, you know, like, look, I adore Candida. She is my sister in so many ways. And that obviously motivates my wanting to, you know, work with her and her career and that, but it's the work. It really is the work. And that was reinforced. Candida knows it was meaningful for me. I don't know if she realizes how meaningful, is that the second day of installation, the first day when everything was delivered, she went to New York for the day because she had to be there for something for Skowhegan, and she trusted me. We didn't fully hang, but she trusted me to be there with all that work the first day. And I just really appreciated that. And that's another reason it made it so special. I do want to plug the book, Green Lantern Press, which is a major, fantastic nonprofit press based in Chicago and Santa Fe and New York, sort of an itinerant press now. Did this beautiful book. We replicated the idea of the spine, the trim piece on the spine. If I put that up that close, maybe you can see all the contributors. The book is a reader. So we reprinted essays. Myself, Kelly Jones, and Daniel Keelis wrote new essays. There are new conversations between Candida and Dawood Bey and Kay Rosen. And Elizabeth Alexander, who was Obama's first poet laureate, wrote this amazing, beautiful prose piece in the front that relates to Candida's painting of her father from 1985. This is being distributed by Small Press Distributors, which I think does the Rail books too. I'm not sure, but yes, based in Berkeley. I'm sure they're totally shut down right now, but they're nonprofits, support them. Candida and I aren't making money off the books. This is not a sales pitch for us. It's like some Green Lantern and Small Press Distributors I want to do a shout out for. But the other thing I'm going to do right now, because the teacher in me, is I'm going to share, I think I can share in the chat my essay from the book. So I'm going to share, as Candida's talking, I'm going to figure out sharing my essay as a PDF so people can read it if you don't have the book yet. Because there's so much other great writing in the book. I hope you'll pick it up. The show's fully documented. We did it after the fact. So all the installation views plus a full chronology of the work. So maybe now, Charlie, let's go to the next slide. And Candida, do you want to talk a bit about what this is and this in the next few slides, the recent work?
Sure. This is a show, an exhibition that was at Monique Meloche Gallery, just closed, a week ago. And the title of it was Estoy Bien. And Estoy Bien means I'm okay. I guess we're all Estoy Bienes. We're all here. We're all okay, you know, despite everything that we're all going through right now. And it's about that. It's about like resilience. It's about, you know, getting through things. It's about painting, and it's about loving painting, and it's about, you know, not having to name it, just be in it. And you know, the material was PVC. It came from, there were proofs from a piece that I did, that was commissioned for by the Chicago Cultural Center under the Wacker Bridge. And so I had these in the studio. The first painting was also in 2017. What an amazing year, 2017. So I had all these amazing things happen, you know, the collaboration, and then my father also died. So, you know, I took all of that and, you know, I put it all in there. So this is the outcome. And I wanted to create these, I wanted to hang the pieces. I wanted to hang them not like drawings or like regular paintings. I wanted them to live double-sided. And so that you could walk around them. And it took me a long time to get to this structure. And so they're like paintings, you know, that kind of hang on their own terms. And so I love that I can set them up in different ways. And so they're very different kind of work for me, but you know, I just love being able to see through them and move them around. And so, yeah. And again, this, you know, this also takes me out of the studio in a different way. You know, I had to have somebody help me build the frames, and Novelist Woodworks helped, you know, finally constructed them for me. And, you know, I had to figure out whether they be aluminum or wood. I found that aluminum was lighter, and it also has that real urban feeling. They're like mirrors in many ways. You know, you can see through them. They expand their own horizon lines. They become bigger than themselves as they take on everything around them. So for me, you know, they start to do something else that, you know, that was kind of unexpected, but also very, very, something that I wanted. I wanted to see how I can get to another way of understanding color, you know, how I could go through it and see it through it. And so it could expand in a way that is very different than the paintings that I do that hang on the walls. And right. I'm still doing those.
I see people are just asking, can you explain exactly what the material is?
It's a mesh. It's a PVC mesh, and it's what, when you look at ordinary banners that hang in the street, that's what they're made out of. So they're plastic. So I could step on them, I could pour on them, you know, I can put them, you know, and so
and air goes through them.
And air goes through the right. So right, thank you, Terry. So they're air paintings. Well, why not be air paintings, right? So air paintings, because air goes through them, and the material was constructed so that it could work under the Wacker Bridge and not fall down, right? So I love that idea. Oh, so air. And so air goes back to airplanes and air, you know, and the color. And, you know, so I thought about my parents and how they met on a plane. So there are all these risks that one takes in life. And in the studio, you know, it's just, you kind of play. You play with ideas. You come up with things. Sometimes they're very mysterious. And I'm always looking for a way through something and out of something. I always want to be surprised. So, you know, when you've been working for as long as I've been working, you know, you have to keep raising your bar. And so it's like, I just take on what I feel I have to at the moment. And so I just, I'm grateful that I always have things to work on. I mean, I just keep moving on. So behind me, I think all
Let's
of us.
move to the next image too,
Oh, yeah,
Charlie.
sorry.
Actually, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Perfect. How did you know, Terry? So this brings me back to very new paintings, and you'll see one right behind my head over here. And they're tiny. They're 20 by 20, and it's sort of
Or
my nod
2020.
in 2020, and I wanted to call them, vision paintings, because it's sort of this idea of the perfect vision. Well, who the hell has perfect vision? I certainly don't. But I love this idea that I can wrestle with, the importance of the time that we're in right now. And so 2020, they're on linen. They have a PVA surf medium on them, so that I can actually use the color of the linen as one of the primary colors in the palette. So, excuse me. So that's something that I've always wanted to do. I wanted to sort of mesh this contemporary feeling with this kind of old world, more traditional space. And so I've been traveling, I've been on sabbaticals, so I haven't been teaching. And my kudos goes out to all of my colleagues who are teaching right now at this very difficult time of online, switching onto online. I don't know how that would be for me.
Can we segue to that? That's exactly where we were going to go next. Candida and I, last night, we talked a lot about, we've both been so invested in teaching. I mean, those of you who know me know I started in 1990 at Pratt. Then I moved here to LA, and I was full-time at Otis. Then I was at Art Center. Then I did 2 years at the Royal College in London. And then I did School of the Art Institute, where I was in the painting and drawing department and became the chair. Candida is the F.H. Sellers Professor of Painting currently at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. We literally have thousands of students from our careers. So, but neither of us are teaching right now. Candida's on sabbatical. I took early retirement from SAIC and moved back to LA. So, as everyone is shifting to Zoom, and how do you teach beginning painting on Zoom? How do you, all these questions that I'm seeing? I think I don't want to speak for you, Candida, but I think both of us we feel like I feel a little guilty, I guess is what I want to say right now. That I'm not. On the other hand, there's a part that's like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not chair of that department right now. All the questions and insanity. But anyway, Candida, you can pick up. The other thing I want to say is Candida and I met first in 2004 or 5 because a colleague at SAIC who runs the study trips domestically and internationally, I had been doing one in LA every January since the year 2000. This colleague thought that she and I would be great to do a New York one. So I went to her studio. She was in the Fine Arts Building in Chicago, if you know that. It's just down from the Art Institute on Michigan Avenue. And as I arrived, her dear, dear friend, Elizabeth Murray, was leaving, was in town and had spent time with her. So I got to meet Elizabeth, which is a hero of mine too. And Candy and I just clicked. So we ended up doing this New York summer study trip for 7 years, from 2005 to 2011. We did studios, we went to all the galleries, we immersed there. I think there are probably people in this Zoom right now who did those trips. Those kids were so lucky. Every summer, one of the things we did, we spent a day out in Bridgehampton with Mary Heilman and her pool. So anyway, so teaching has been a part of Candida and I's relationship relative to her work. So now, Candida, I'm curious what your thoughts are right now about this moment as a teacher who's not teaching right now.
Well, I have so many thoughts. I needed the time to sort of leave, so I really appreciate the sabbatical. I know it's difficult for me as the artist right now. I had to move my studio to my home, so I have this little space back here. and I'm working on an easel that one of my assistants lent me that belonged to his grandmother. Like, it's 30 years old. You know, I mean, who would
Oh,
thought that I make
no, from the 1930s.
1930s? Yeah. Is that when I? But anyway, so it's kind of this weird paradox, right? So there's this trying to paint this little painting on top of this little easel. So, but it's work.
Charlie's just put up a bigger painting. This painting's quite large. You could see
that's what I do in my regular studio, right? I can't do that here. They're roughly about 6 by 7 feet, or a little bit smaller. But anyway, I just want to say to you all, just to hang in there and just do what you love to do. You know, it's not impossible. And so resilience is everything. And so, you know, we just have to remember that. But this is hard for all of us. And again, my heart goes out to those who have to get through the semester, and to those students right now who can't have a show, you know, where people can come and actually step in. But, you know, we're doing our best. It's not the school's fault. It's, you know, it's something that the whole world is dealing with right now. This virus, you know, it's just out of control. And so, you know, we have to make the most of it. And so, you know, so I just feel, you know, I mean, even sitting here talking to you through this lens, I mean, I'm very uncomfortable in many ways. So I could just imagine how you all feel. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think we're just going to have to get used to it. You know, we're just going to have to really, you know, be the souls that we are, the creative souls that we are. And we just take charge, you know, and just, we can do this. You know, well, if anybody could do this, we can.
Right. Can I just pick up on that? As, you know, again, I think as not the artist, as the writer, as the educator, as the former chair who had, you know, just to give you a sense of the SAIC painting department, there are 1,200 undergrads in just painting classes every semester. There are 60 grad students just in painting and drawing. There are 75 odd faculty. It's a beast. But it's rewarding in times of crisis, even, you know, and time, you know, that connections happen. And that's something that's been so crucial to me in all of my career and everything I do. That, like, you know, some of the former students of mine here know this. I studied paint. I was a young student of painting and fine art and moved to New York thinking that I was going to go to grad school. Barry Schwabsky gave me my start as a writer. I never planned to do that back in 1988. But what I say to students now is that I realized that back then I was too interested in too many things in art. I could never figure out how to make that like a viable artistic practice. So I was planning for what I wanted to do all along, even though back then it was like traumatic and I didn't understand. So there are many ways that we all get to do our work, and they're not even set yet how we can do our work. So I just wanted to add that, and then maybe now the good thing, because I'm looking at the time. Nick, can you put up the next slide? So you're gonna say something, Candida?
I was gonna ask you, I just wanted to know more about what you were working on, because I know this amazing show is about to open virtually.
Yeah. So
on
first,
Thursday.
Charlie, keep this up so everyone can read it. This is the lyrics of a Pet Shop Boys song, a very obscure one. It's on YouTube if you want to listen to it. It's like 4 minutes long, and the lyrics start like 2 minutes in, and Neil Tennant sort of sings this. And again, they're friends of, I call them friends. I mean, I text Neil on occasion. I mean, it's a great honor to know them. I think they're geniuses. They've changed the culture, like Ray Kawakubo. So I, last Friday, got an email from the amazing people at Fort Gandavort, the gallery in the Meatpacking District in New York, and also here in LA, actually just down the street from me. I could walk to their space here in Los Feliz. Do I want to curate an online show? And I jumped at the opportunity because I'm sitting here like everyone, and I was like, wow, I can do this. And this was a chance to include a group of artists. There's 7. It's going live on Thursday on their website and on their social media, so I encourage you to think of that. But now what I want to ask is, Charlie, can you stop sharing your screen so we can go back to seeing everyone? Yeah, I want to figure out I see, I want people to wave as I see them. So Jenny Spoda, can you wave, with her beautiful daughter Josephine is in the show. Then I see Chinatsu Ikeda. Chinatsu wave. Chinatsu's in Berlin. She's originally from Osaka. She's in the show. Millie Barzilai is there from Tel Aviv. He's in the show. I can't tell who that is with Millie, but hey. And Keith Tolch, he's here in LA. He's in the show.
Maybe this is a good moment to transition to some of the questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think that's everyone who's here. If I missed someone, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look. But anyway, just look on Thursday. I'm very proud of the show. Candida, it wouldn't have happened without Candida too, is the other reason I wanted to talk about it, because a lot of these artists are people Candida knows, and they're friends of ours now. They're people that we love, and that's what I wanted to do. So with that, yes, let's do questions. Oh, first, Sophia, I emailed Sophia my essay, because what I learned just now is the leader of the meeting is the only person that has the ability to put a PDF in the chat. So hopefully.
Yes, I'll be working on that in the background. But
okay, perfect.
For now,
great.
I noticed that Bob Holman had a question, so sure. I'm gonna unmute you, Bob, so you can ask yourself. We should be able to hear you now.
Hi, how you doing? I'm actually on the phone with my daughter out in Oakland, who just had a baby.
Congratulations.
So, Candida, how are you? So good to see you. You know, Candida and I met Terry at the CETA Artist Project.
I know, yes.
It's good to see you. This is just a sensational. I love the Broken Rail for doing this, but to get to see the show finally, thank you so much. So I was just wondering whether or not CETA had, you know, what kind of impact did that occurrence, did that amazing project have on your work? And talking about the virus now, what about if this were, you know, if we're able to get, as we come out of it, some kind of artist project going, artist employment going, like the WPA. To me, that's what we need. But Candida, I love seeing your work, sweetie.
Oh my goodness, Bob, it's been years. You know, the best thing about CETA was that I got put into this group of writers. You know, I think I was the only painter, and I was like, who are all these people? Bob Holman, Pedro Pietri, help me now, who else was there? There was so many.
Brenda Connor Bay, Rose Lesniak, right. Sandra Maria Esteves.
Judd Tully, you know, they were, right?
Oh my goodness.
This was my core group so every week we would check in, right? Or payday, you know, we would check in. So it was phenomenal. All of a sudden I got to hear poetry. And so I was young. I think I was the youngest one in the group, in the whole 350. Were there 350 people?
Yes, you got it.
I was probably me and Susan, maybe Susan Scher, you know, who's there.
Yeah, who's up in Anchorage now.
I was just this little bud, you know. I didn't know hardly anything, and I couldn't even get the word art out of my mouth. I didn't even know what it was, really. And here I was, in the midst of all these amazing people, right? And so I would say that changed my life in many ways, right? And also, you know, I mean, that's where I met Dawood too, right? And so, then I got married, and then so on and so forth, right? So, but it was phenomenal to be you know, just to wow. Herman Cherry, you know, there were so many. Congratulations, that's so beautiful. Hey. So anyway, life continues, right? So I would say that was one of the best things that happened to us. It gave us something, you know, it gave us our work, and we were paid for making our work, you know. And so, yes, artists need to, you know, we need to be supported, and, you know.
We need a new WPA, Bob.
Yeah, we need another WPA.
Well, we need, Terry.
Figure this out.
You know,
absolutely.
We can't take our studios away.
We got to have this kind of spirit going on with us now, that the rail does so well, you know.
Oh my goodness.
We got to stand up now for the art, you know. It's just we're not solitary beings.
No, we're not. In many ways, we're not. And so, and then I think that this helped. I mean, I was grateful that, Terry had this idea to put me on Zoom, but I was very anxious because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to be zoomed out into the world, because
Well,
I'm feeling like everybody else is, we're a little bit anxious, right? We're like, almost all of a sudden I get this email, well, you can't go back to your studio because we got to lock it down, right? And I'm like, oh, I haven't worked at home in I don't know how many years, right? And so here I am, so anyway, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh my goodness. Did that answer? I don't know.
I'm going to talk to my daughter and granddaughter now.
Tell her, give her a hug for me. Well, you can't, but tell her I said congratulations.
I'll give her a virtual hug. Same back to you.
All right, yeah, Sophia, who's next?
Nick Bennett, if you want to unmute yourself. You asked a question a little earlier.
Hi, Candida. As it's great to see you, and it was such a pleasure to work with you on Fong's interview. I am currently inside of a Rousseau painting, which is my coping mechanism for all of this social distancing. But in the spirit of talking about travel and things that we used to be able to do that we love, you briefly mentioned in your interview your recent trip to Italy, and I was just curious if you had any more details on that, or certain significant works that really resonated with you that you saw there. Or just
I talked a bit about it in the interview, right, in the Brooklyn Rail. I think we mentioned it a bit. As part of, as part of my sabbatical, one of the things that I wanted to do was do a little bit of traveling. And thank goodness I was in November and I was to Italy, and I went to Umbria. I had this opportunity, and I stayed at the Civitella Foundation, and it was gorgeous and has so much history. And of course, the focus was really, we spent a lot of time looking at Piero della Francesca's, work. And so I was just mesmerized by the beauty, right? The frescoes are so old, but they're so brilliant. Yes, some of them have been cleaned, but still, the integrity, just being in front of all of that and just going back in time, it was just, it was inspiring, there was something about it, it's like, we've been doing this for centuries, right? We want to work, we want to paint, we want to share stories, so I came back and I used, those colors are still in my mind. And so at some point I want to do egg tempera too, right? Because I feel like I have to somehow, but I don't know. So they're all in the new work. So the vision paintings really are the beginning point for that, where I'm mashing up, where I'm really bringing somebody like Piero della Francesca with Francisco Oller, who I, knew about for many, many years, who was an artist from Puerto Rico, who many of you have never heard of, but, he was friends with Pizarro and Cezanne, and, and so, I like this idea of kind of it's not curating, but it is in a way, it's like bringing artists together into the room, and then sort of they find themselves inside my painting somehow, right? And so, and then I'm there, of course. And so there's this kind of journey that happens. And so I love detail, and I love getting really close to something like a painting, to really get close to something in a way that when you go into a museum, they won't let you, they was, you can't, if you get that close, you're like, you're too close, right? You're breathing on the painting. So I love being able to do that. And the only way I could do that is through pictures, right? Pictures of the paintings, or, and so I find that that's what I do. As I work, that's what I'm sort of really getting close. It's a very intimate space in many ways, but I don't know if that answers your question, but next.
Yeah, thank
you very much. So next up we have Benjamin Keating, who's calling in. I'm gonna unmute you, Ben. Since you're on a phone, I will mute you back again at the end, as you can't control that.
You did it? How do you have that power?
I'm very
He has
anyway, this is like kind of I got bumped off this conversation from the head of the sculpture department at Columbia, and the conversation was about the students. And when I came back to the conversation, you guys were talking about how do we help these kids. And as we were talking about it, and I'm coming to think of it with the thesis program and how do these guys get to show? So can we help them? And I don't really have the breadth of resources too, but maybe someone here does. And like, for example, if let's say Columbia or whatever school it is, why can't we get the Whitney or the Met to put them on Instagram for their thesis show and give them something maybe digitally that, or we call Larry Gagosian and say, Larry, can you give, or Pace gives Columbia and Larry gives Yale, and we get with all the major institutions, and even SUNY Oswego gets maybe Barbara Gladstone. And we give these kids it through our community and through the big shots. And I think this is where the big shots got to step up. And like,
can I just interject, Benjamin? It's
Terry.
Yeah,
I'm done. That's my
it's a great idea. And in full disclosure, I worked for Larry Gagosian for 7 years.
Well, drop him. Let's get rid of him. How about the Matt Brewer?
Here you go. You just planted a seed in my head.
Yeah, Matt, tell him, Matt. I had to get rid of him.
And you know, he, of course, many of you remember he came through for the Pratt students when they had the fire. You know, Larry hosted their show when Pratt had their fire. So I think that's a great idea. I mean, look, I'm retired from SAIC. Candida, full disclosure, was the graduate dean for 2 years back in the day before we did our show. So there are people that have clout, let's say, to sort of make that happen too. I actually wonder now, I'm just thinking out loud, let's tie this into the Bob's idea about the WPA. You know,
that's
like
what that got me thinking as well. You know, it's like, this is where whatever, even I have a dealer in the Hamptons. I mean, if I can get him to list the kids' work, my students' work, it's something they would have never got. But that's just my breath. And I think everyone else's breath, especially around the Brooklyn Rail, can really rally up and help all these kids get what they need, at least within the New York community, you know?
Yeah, but I think speaking is from LA, and we've got an international array on the thing right now, that this can be a model. And all of us who have our connections around the world to just raise our voices and put our our proverbial money where our mouth is and make these things happen. I think that creativity is required now. And Fong, I'm gonna call out to Fong here.
I agree. I'm gonna mute myself.
Candida, tell everyone what you said to Fong about what he should do.
Hello, am I on?
No, I want Candida first.
Oh.
Remember?
My first, you mean when I shared with you and I said that you should be president?
Yeah, Candida went to the rails.
I just want to say thank you to you, because what you do is phenomenal. I mean, look at all these people who are online, you know, just like we're all here like a huge community, you know, and so this wouldn't happen just anywhere. And, you know, the fact that you're still printing, you know, you're still putting, you know, conversations matter, right? This is how the world gets changed. You know, we share things, we converse, you know, and then you realize you're not all alone ever, you know, and there's a lot more of us. And so I think we have to help each other out. I mean, you know, the Brooklyn Rail also needs support too. So that's another thing, you know, nothing comes out free. And so, you know, if you have a little extra change in your pocket, you know, always think about, you know, putting some things out there to something that really matters. And so I am grateful for the interview they did. They worked so hard on it. I spent hours, they spent hours. And I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of that interview. So I just want to say thank you. And of course the drawing is beautiful. You know, it's like, I got one too when I did the critics page. So I've been Fong. You're over there in the dark, in the shadows, but you know, kudos to you. Yeah, and, kudos to Fong. And to your team, and to your amazing team. And everyone in the team. I mean, I've been a part of the rail since 2007, and it really reinvigorated my work. I mean, without it, I just got sick of the art magazines after 20 plus years. The rail really invigorated my work, and I have Fong to thank for that. So,
well, can I add to?
Absolutely, you're the boss.
El presidente.
We have a talk. We hosted Paul Miller yesterday.
Yes.
And, Amiri Baraka's name came up, and I just realized that I met, Heidi Jones, the terrific poet, beat poet, who's married to Baraka. People should know that his former name was Leroy Jones, part of the New York School poet. And Kelly Jones, the daughter, who is a distinguished professor of art history and archaeology and African American study at Columbia University. And that's how it all happened. Also meeting through Candida at Jack Whitten's dinner afterwards, the opening, and segue through what I want to say about the WPA during the terrible crisis of the Great Depression. FDR was able to create federal for the arts, federal for music, federal for geography, history, everything, photography, mobilize the whole artist community to generate their own contribution. And that was a very important moment, because you remember library was open 7 days a week till midnight. And there was library on transportation, through cars, through trucks, through a variety of ways. And it just occurred to me that wasn't long ago, I remember listening to a panel at the New School, moderated by Claire Potter. She's quite well-known historian, with Earl Lewis, the chairman of, I think it's probably from the Mellon Foundation, that's right, and William Adams, the former chair of the National Art and Humanity, and who was a former president also at Kobe College. And the reason I'm bringing it all up, because they all talk about how the condition of education structure, particularly undergrad, should stop mimicking graduate school program, which is very interesting. And then the other thing that brought up was how to support alternative practice outside the one that already tied to institutional structure. In other words, we need to find way to support, not just the rail. There are a lot of nonprofit out there, like Printed Matter, like Artist Space, many others, Smack Melon, pockets of those nonprofit that creates different small community that support the art and the humanities. A poetry, project, St. Mark, for example. Places like that deserve greater help from the Mellon Foundation. The Mellon Foundation and all the Hugh Foundation shouldn't just go to support university and big institutions that already have their bureaucratic structure intact. The idea is to look for all the places in which everyone is willing to pay site visit. That's another crisis we are facing. People don't pay site visit. They must see people in action, these places. That's where we need to focus on. So if we survive this crisis, we will appreciate what artists do, what plural artists, because we work super hard to find our solitude to do what we do. But as you say, Terry, we're not solitary figure. We're also very sociable creature. So we have both function, and during crisis such as this one, we know how to mediate with our solitude, because that's where we know right now to provide pleasure, what we do. And that's what we needed, to provide pleasure during the crisis. As we know, in the past, the Cameron was written during Black Plague. I think that we tend to forget that Masaccio didn't survive the Black Plague in Florence. He dies at the age of 27, but Donatello, alive, got away with it, and so did Gilberti and Brunelleschi. The reason why Renaissance is a good way to think about at this moment, because in the next 70 or 80 years, they build up Florence, and Renaissance means rebirth. So really after Black Death, it was the artist community that build culture in Florence. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Right. Can I just, I think let's go to the poem, but I just want to say here, Fong, and I think we're just getting started in this, and how, you know, I think that, you know, some of us have received, maybe some of you know, we've received some bad news this morning about a beloved member of the international artist community having passed away from this virus. I don't want to, you know, it's now public. I saw Jerry posted something about it. So, you know, this is where we are. This is a very, from all accounts, this is a very critical week that we're in right now about what's going on. So, yeah, we just, all of us can be empowered through things like this to make those connections, generate ideas. I mean, again, I think, Candida, you and I as educators, you know, that spark that can happen in the classroom, and like you leave and you're like, wow, that just happened. You know, like that just, you know, like that, those moments that happen in teaching are gold. And, you know, that can be created in what we're doing now. So just one housekeeping thing, we didn't figure out how to share the PDF of my essay, but I put my email in the comments. If you want to email me, I'll send it to you. So just wanted to say that. So are we moving to the poem now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you.
Such a vibrant and grounded conversation. So one of the Rails everyday rituals is that we end our lunch with the reading of a poem. And today our poet will be Tyler Clark. So Tyler, if you want to unmute yourself, take it away.
Hello. I'm going to be reading a short paragraph from this book, The Skin Team, by Jordan Mason. I've been thinking a lot about the political activism and uprisings that are going on, more like in a group way before this whole pandemic, and thinking about this time of being separated from everyone, but still continuing that momentum. So I thought this it's a nice connection to it. It's from a little section called Now Then. Three blind mice put the knives back in the barn. North is just a territory, briefly between breaths. If you do not consider how much sleeping could be done in one night, most of this is true. If you do not consider that fire is free if you put it in your mouth first, or that there is feral energy being passed around, having conversations about trout, taking bananas from your kitchen, the night is quiet. But let's be honest, this night is not quiet. On this night, there is a fire, one carried in a human mouth from one place to another and set free. This particular fire is not swallowed in the night during sleep. Yes, there is a possibility of transfer, of displacement, of movement. It is unlikely that a fire is coughed up accidentally or made with the bare hands of someone young without thought, without purpose. It is true that this fire was made with much consideration, was stored in the mouth for weeks, months, years, just waiting, waiting and waiting and waiting to be wild. That's it.
Thank you very much, Tyler. And thank you, Terry and Candida. What a pleasure. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. Fong, any parting words?
No, just thanks for participating. And tomorrow will be, I'll be hosting Jessamine Bartario, our guest critic of the March issue. And the theme is about working as a way to communicate and the way to imagine. So join us tomorrow.
And then one last shameless plug, Fong graciously asked me, I'm returning on Friday to host Lisa Yuskavich. So I will be your charming host on Friday with Lisa.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Candida. Love you. Thank you, Candida.
Bye.
Bye.
Big hug. Bye.
Stay healthy.
This is my favorite part. See you around me. Yassi. So cute. Bye. Hi, Claire. Bye, everyone.
Hi, bye.
Bye, Bob. Bye, Nita. Bye, Malvika. Bye, Lucy. Bye,
This
Gina.
is like a children's book.
Oh,
Good night.
bye, Angela.